This week's episode of Dragon Ball Super made it painfully clear that Frieza is the greatest Dragon Ball villain of all time. Before I begin my review, I'd like to go ahead and apologize. I'm not going to be as loud and boisterous in this review because just yesterday I had my wisdom teeth removed and my jaw is a little sore, so it's going to be sort of hard to contain my excitement for this review because this week's episode was just freaking stellar from beginning to end. Some of the best production value that I've seen from the entire series, and one of the greatest plot twists in Dragon Ball history. Frieza is back, and he comes back with a freaking bang. I've made it very clear in my previous reviews that Frieza is my favorite villain in Dragon Ball history, and one of my favorite anime villains of all time. Hell, I'm gonna call him one of my top favorite villains period, in all forms of media, and you really got to see that on full display in this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super, as Frieza takes delight in annihilating all of these assassins from Universe 9, and Goku's not going to stand idly by as he watches his former enemy completely annihilate everyone in front of him. But we also have another great plot twist. It looks like Frieza is up to his old tricks and plans on not only trying to kill Goku in this episode, but also trying to become a fighter for Universe 9. So the main story in this week's episode is that Sidra and Ro from Universe 9 have come up with this plan where they're going to send hundreds of assassins after Goku and Frieza. And Sidra has actually given this giant ball of pure god destruction energy to one of these assassins, who's going to plan and use it against Frieza, which supposedly should be able to completely destroy him. But this actually does not end up working. Frieza has been doing some mental training while he's been in Hell, and is actually able to maintain his Golden Frieza form without any consequences. Basically, Frieza has become one of the most powerful entities again in the entire Dragon Ball series. I think one of the most fun things about this week's episode is that Frieza takes so much delight in actually going back to his old ways, using a lot of his signature techniques and using them in some pretty interesting ways, such as his death beams. He's able to fire multiple ones from his fingers, taking out all of these assassins at once, as well as being able to basically tap his enemies right on the forehead, sending his energy directly into their skulls, which causes a massive explosion. This is all really awesome, but it gets even better when you have that one assassin who was given the energy from Sidra, and at first he has a couple of fake outs where he tries to hit Frieza with the attack, but it's a fake ki blast. On the third try, it's actually the real one, which does hit Frieza at point blank, but at first, Frieza seems like he's incredibly hurt by this attack, and then he starts powering up, and suddenly is able to take control of this power, condense it down, and even use it against Goku. What's really surprising about all of this is that Goku is not able to actually get rid of this energy or even become more powerful than it. This is something that Frieza was able to do, but Goku did not. This speaks volumes for how strong Frieza has actually become in the series, and it all leads to this really great scene where he actually steals one of the communicators from one of these assassins, and actually is able to speak directly to Ro the Supreme Kai and Sidra the God of Destruction from Universe 9, and he comes up with the proposal that when Goku is dead, he wants to become a fighter for Universe 9, because he has no care in the world for Universe 7. He just wants to go back to being the ruler and basically his very own personal god of destruction. It's funny that I say that, because even Ro mentions in this episode that Frieza is a much better god of destruction than Sidra, something that you would think would piss him off, but no, he seems pretty excited over the prospect of having a super powerful fighter on their team, and with Goku being out of the way, they could potentially win this entire tournament. But no, Frieza gets impatient once Beerus and Whis show up and he destroys the communicator, reluctantly having to stay with Universe 7's team. Beerus is able to get rid of the energy which is destroying Goku's body by simply just blowing on it, again just showing how incredibly badass he is. And then you have Frieza, who seems to already be plotting his very next scheme, knowing how powerful he's become, and seeing that he has the ability to manipulate the various gods from other universes. I'm sure he has big plans for not only the actual, it seems as if Frieza no longer has plans for his own universal domination, but to control all universes, and I can't wait to see what sort of crazy plan that he is going to come up with. In fact, if you look at the preview for next week's episode, it looks like he's already going to be plotting with Frost, something that I cannot wait to see. However, there is one more cherry on top of this week's incredibly manly Sunday, and that's that we get a very short but incredibly epic sparring match between Goku and Golden Frieza. This is something that Beerus and Whis actually allow. However, the stipulation in this sparring match is it's all over once someone gets punched. And they both go full power, with Golden Frieza completely powering up his form, and Goku going into Super Saiyan Blue. They collide across this ocean, they meet each other, there's a huge impact, and you get to see that both characters have punched each other in a cross-counter punch of epicness. And they both manage to knock each other out. What's really surprising about this is that Frieza is able to still have his golden form, while Goku actually loses his Super Saiyan Blue form. Frieza has officially become one of the most disturbingly powerful characters with the ability to become even more powerful even after multiple deaths. This is why Frieza is the best villain from the series. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super? It is really hard to contain my excitement for this episode. I absolutely loved Frieza in this one, and the best thing about this episode is that it was backed up with some amazing animation and some incredible artwork. Almost every single still of Frieza in this episode looked so damn good. Lots of detail, especially in that big final sparring match between Goku and Frieza. Honestly, one of the coolest things that I've seen from Dragon Ball Super. And then Frieza's actual, rampage as he went up against the assassins and just completely massacred them looked amazing. I love that his death beams are able to sort of, move and contort and sort of, snake their way into the bodies of all of these different assassins. It's just got a lot of really great fast and fluid camera movement and just so much oomph behind absolutely every single attack. It just looks awesome. I know that some people are not going to like the fact that Frieza was able to break out of that God Destruction energy, but Goku was not. Really, I think this just speaks to how powerful Frieza is and how his mental fortitude has allowed him to become this powerful in the series. Despite the fact that he has been trapped in hell and stuck in a cocoon, he was able to sort of mentally train himself to control his golden form, which just, man, looks so great in this episode. Even better than the actual arc in Dragon Ball Super, and a lot more on par with what we saw from the Resurrection F movie. And I can't wait to see more of him in action as the tournament is getting ready to begin, because the ring has officially been completed by the Grand Priest, and it looks like in the next episode, we're finally going to begin the tournament. Or at least we're going to have the formal introductions, which means an excuse to see a ton of brand new characters. Some of these new characters are teased in the preview, with some of them looking seemingly weird and alien, some of them look like weird flying chickens, and then of course there's a great scene where we get to see some of the God of Destructions, which seem to be fighting. That one Fox one seems to be teaming up with a couple of others, and they seem to be having some sort of weird sparring match, which, don't get me wrong, I can't wait to see that. I don't even know anything about the Fox God of Destruction, but he's still my favorite just in terms of the actual design. But Frieza here is really going to mix things up. I think they did a really great job of keeping his inclusion secret, aside from the fact that we did have spoilers for some of the episode titles and some of the summaries. The fact that Majin Buu is being cut out for Frieza, at first I was really not too happy about, but considering that Frieza just has so much personality, just, man, I can't wait to see him interacting with all of the other universes and to see if his scheme is actually going to work out. There could be a very big twist for the Tournament of Power where Frieza and Frost team up with one another and try to take over everything. I'm still imagining a scenario where somehow both Frieza and Frost are able to fuse together and create the ultimate evil being. We're just going to have to wait to see what's going to happen there. Of course, all these Gods of Destruction are going to be there, Zeno is going to be there, so how are they possibly even going to be any sort of problem for Frieza? I just don't imagine. I mean, there's so many strong characters here, and even when Beerus appears in this episode, Frieza's not horrified, but he still recognizes that Beerus is incredibly powerful. I loved the scene where Beerus got right up in Frieza's face, and Frieza barely winces at all during this. Basically, he's just trying to look like a badass, and Beerus doesn't want to get rid of his opponent right here. He wouldn't want to kill him. He has to do everything in his power to make sure that they have the strongest beings possible for their team, so that way that their universe is going to survive. Also, I thought it was kind of interesting how Goku was really upset over the fact that Frieza was killing all of these people, but if they beat their respective universe, all these guys are going to die anyway. Basically, it's just Goku sticking to his guns and his code to never actually kill anyone. And again, like I said, there's just something very surreal and strange and really fun about seeing Goku and Frieza actually just talking with each other in a normal setting and actually sparring with each other. Yes, sparring, not fighting to the death. It's so very strange, but so incredibly awesome. What more can I say? This episode was fan-freaking-tastic. One of the best episodes of the entire series. I look forward to see what Frieza is going to be scheming in the future, and I just cannot wait to see all the amazing matchups which are going to be happening in the Tournament of Power. I'm still really curious to see how this whole thing is going to work with this ring, with all of the fighters in it at once, with it being a big free-for-all battle. I still have a feeling there's more to this ring than meets the eye. I think there's going to be some sort of twist about it that we don't see coming, which is going to allow this arc to not only go on a little bit longer than we think, but also to offer us a lot of really cool surprises. It's also worth mentioning that the artwork and animation in this week's episode was stellar from beginning to end, and a great preview to see what we're going to be seeing in this upcoming Tournament of Power. It had a lot of the same energy as the preliminary matches before this big Tournament of Power, and man, I haven't been this hyped in a long time to be a Dragon Ball fan, and as a Frieza fan too, it's just delivering on every single front. This was a perfect episode, in my opinion, and that is why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Check it out, Dragon Ball fans. You have got to check out this episode. It is action-packed. It's got some great story points, some great plot twists, and Frieza, the Lord of Destruction, is back. Can't wait to see what's going to happen. But I want to hear from you guys. Make sure to tell me what you thought about this week's episode of Dragon Ball Super in the comments section below. Did you like this episode as much as I did? What did you think about Frieza becoming even more powerful than we saw him in the last arc of the series? What did you think about that Goku-Frieza sparring match? And what sort of scheme is Frieza going to come up with? And what do you hope to see from the Tournament of Power? Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Dragon Ball Super related. Make sure to leave me a comment telling me what you thought about this week's episode, or if you want to talk with me about anything, I'm always down for a good conversation. If you like this video, make sure to power up and send a key blast right down to the like button. Thank you guys again for watching. Take care. I will see you guys next time, and as always, stay dandy, baby.